Hey, podcast family. Welcome back to the show and happy 2024. Before we get into it, I have a quick update for you about the show. So, starting this month, we will be airing episodes every other week instead of every week for the foreseeable future because producing a podcast, as you probably know, is a lot of work. And right now, we're all hands on deck to get the Fix Your Period Collective membership ready to be launched in the next few months. This membership will feature a detailed period quiz and a dashboard that displays your answers and your period score, along with full explanations of why you're experiencing the symptoms you are, as well as an entire course, problem-specific protocols, tons of recipes, a period shop with tons of period-related products, a supplement shop, a community, and live calls with myself and guest experts. It's a first of its kind membership platform and it is going to be a game changer. I'll be sure to share lots more right here when it's ready to go. In the meantime, my first guest of 2024 is a true trailblazer in the field of holistic health. Her name is Dr. Ellen Cutler. She's an internationally recognized teacher, best-selling author, and the brilliant mind behind the Ellen Cutler method. Ellen has dedicated her life to unraveling the mysteries of healing through enzymes, detoxification, and other revolutionary wellness techniques. In this episode, we're going to get back to basics to begin with. So we'll talk about what exactly enzymes are and why they're essential to our health. We're going to talk about different types of enzymes and do they wield unique effects on the body. And Ellen has been quoted as saying, it's not only what you eat, but what you digest and absorb. And she'll elaborate on the pivotal role that enzymes play in the effective digestion and absorption of nutrients, laying the foundation for lasting health. You'll also learn practical tips for finding enzymes in the foods that you eat, the best foods for our bellies, and the best approach for someone wanting to incorporate Ellen's methodology into their routine. As always, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, Ellen. Thank you so much for being here with me.
It's great to be with you. I'm so happy about this.
I appreciate it so much. And I'm really so thrilled to jump into this conversation on all things enzymes. And I thought we could start with how your personal health journey brought you to do this work, create the Ellen Cutler method today, all of it. I'd love to know how it all began.
Well, it started when I was a young girl. I always had digestive problems, although I didn't know it was digestive problems, but I was always bloated and had cramping. And when you're bloated and your gut's not feeling good, it's hard to really function, because it's like the center of everything. But I couldn't really, it was like even like 5 years old, I couldn't really talk to my parents about it because they didn't really understand. And then, you talk about periods, whatever, right before my period, everything escalated, got worse. And I went through that, got it getting worse and worse. And then when I went to, I'm a chiropractor. I also went to medical school, so I have both of those degrees. But when I went to chiropractic school, I had to pay my own way. So I would work. I would go to school during the day, work at night in an emergency room, and then study. So I hardly got any sleep. And because of that, everything got really bad. And I couldn't eat anything. I had all these food sensitivities, food allergies. The only thing I could really live on was grapes. So I got thinner. I was tired. I was stressed. It was difficult. And so during my last year of chiropractic school, I actually got diagnosed with colitis or ulcerative colitis. And the only suggestion that they offered was being on steroids and maybe surgery later on. And, and this is what my life is going to be. And there's really no answer that will help you, just, needing to do that. It'll get good, bad, and good and here and there, but so here I'm in natural medicine. And I said, oh God, this is not going to work. But I didn't do that much. And then after I opened up a practice, and then I did a 3-year orthopedic postgraduate class, which saved my life, because during that time I met one of my mentors who said, you are carbohydrate intolerant. You don't digest carbs. And what happens is if you don't digest, they ferment, and that's why you're bloated, and that's why you have all these symptoms. Simple, right? And I was a vegetarian. Now I'm a vegan, but I was always a vegetarian. So of course I ate carbs. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I could not. I was always, more into vegetables. So anyway, he said, try taking a full spectrum digestive enzyme. And at that time, Nicole, nobody heard about it. It wasn't on the radar. Nobody knew it. I didn't know what it was. And I said, I'll do whatever because I was suffering. I couldn't eat anything. Everything I ate made it worse. So I took this digestive enzyme. He said, take 1 to 2 with each meal. And I do it. And within 2 weeks, I never had a problem again.
Really? In 2 weeks?
It was a
After
miracle.
all those years?
All those years. It was a miracle. And I thought,
Yeah.
is this true? And I could eat a lot more foods. I still had a lot of sensitivities, which I'll talk about, helped me develop my ECM work. But what I did is because I saw all kinds of other changes, I didn't have any PMS anymore. I didn't have dysmenorrhea. My hair, nails, skin, my energy was different. It was a miracle. That's why I wrote the book, my new book it's a revised, it just came out. It's called MicroMiracles, Discover the Healing Power of Enzymes. So what I did is in my practice, I didn't care if anyone came in with a headache or a ankle sprain or low back pain or neck pain. I gave them a digestive enzyme because I saw such miracles with me. And yes, the miracles continue and I had amazing results. And that's what this book is about. I said, I have to share this with everyone. And you're talking 40 plus years ago. So I'm like passionate about good digestion. And it's the first thing I always start with is look at what you're not digesting and take a good full spectrum digestive enzyme. It will make such a difference, can only help you. Of course, it can hurt you, but it can change your life. It certainly changed my life. So that's my story. And from then, I developed the ECM work, which is all about discovering the underlying cause of chronic disease. And one of them is digestion, looking at detox. And the other is looking at sensitivities and reactivities, which if you saw my program, it would blow your mind. It's a program that's works with a specific machine instrument that evaluates reactivities, sensitivities, and foods, emotions, hormones. People can be sensitive to hormones. They mostly are.
Yes.
and
I've noticed.
yes, toxicity, environmental, and how to clear it and correct those sensitivities. So that's how my work developed, and that's the ECM work. But the digestion and digestive enzymes are a huge part of that healing process and the healing technique.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's my
thank you.
story.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is fascinating. And it actually kind of reminds me of my childhood to some degree, because I was also bloated all the time too. And of course, had no idea why, always had a nervous stomach, digestive issues. And my parents didn't know what to do with me either. And also at that age, you don't know how to articulate how you're feeling, of course,
Exactly.
right? So yeah, so it just balloons into even more problems when you're a teenager and a young adult. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I can definitely relate to that. And I imagine since you had always loved vegetables, that's why you were so bloated at such a young age, right? It's crazy to think about, just how much starts in childhood that we just don't even know and just goes unrecognized and then gets so much worse as we get older.
And the thing is, Nicole, people ask, well, how do these digestive problems occur? Why? And that's what I look at. But one of the things I wanted to share is I had a twin brother, and every evening we could have dinner, my parents would fight. And my father would leave and my mother would sit there cry. That's what I remember. So of course I had digestive problems and food
Yeah.
because emotionally, that's why I don't like to go to business meetings where you eat. I'll go to the meeting, but I won't eat. And I choose not to, because being so charged emotionally and eating can cause food sensitivities. That's definitely an underlying cause of it, is emotional. And sometimes it happens with a baby. They wonder why is this baby? Well, there's a lot of sometimes emotions with parents and etc. that the kids pick up on, for sure. And I did, without a doubt, especially me. I'm so sensitive emotionally. So that's got to be one of the reasons, for sure.
Oh, totally makes sense. And thank you for adding that in, because I could not agree with you more. I definitely felt some of that stuff growing up as well. And I think back and I would agree with you completely that very similar to my experience. So
Yeah, that's why I had a
yeah.
feeling you're going to say that's why I wanted to share. I had
Yeah.
that intuition.
I mean, my dad died suddenly when I was 11. So it was, yeah, there was like just a lot of that trauma built into a lot of my physical symptoms. So it totally makes sense and really resonates. I'm sure it does for a lot of people who are listening too. So yeah, I would love for us to, as I said before we were going to start recording, like let's talk about the basics, because of course I feel like everyone knows what digestive enzymes are generally. Like they might take them, but do we really know what they are, and do we know what they do? And I know there's other types of enzymes, so
Yeah.
maybe we can just start with what enzymes are in the first place.
Yes, that's great. So enzymes are proteins that are catalysts, which means they can make processes happen in the body faster, quicker, and more efficiently. So every single part of our body, it's cellular, even down to the cell, depends on enzymes for it to work efficiently and optimally. And there are three different kinds of enzymes. This is important. The first enzymes are your own digestive enzymes that the pancreas secretes, the stomach, and the small intestine. Those enzymes, Nicole, cannot be replaced. You can't take something and make for those enzymes. Those are yours. Those are the body secretes. Then there's the metabolic enzymes, which have to do with the repair process, inflammation, supporting, anti-inflammatory, has to do with the immune system, your respiratory system, the brain, the lungs, and repair, like I mentioned. So they're extremely important. And then there are food enzymes. That's what I'm talking about. So food enzymes are in whole plant food. But because our soil's been so over agriculturized over such a long period of time, a lot of the cofactors that are needed to make those food enzymes are just not there. So the plants lack those enzymes that they should. And the other thing is we don't chew our food well enough, and we don't eat enough whole plant foods. So we are deficient in those enzymes that occur when you put the food in your mouth and you should chew it and digest. What happens then our body has to do all the digesting, and then we become deficient in those digestive enzymes. Then when they become deficient, we use our metabolic enzymes. So therefore, our immune system is compromised, our inflammatory process repair is compromised, our brain is compromised, so we have symptoms. So that's it. So when I say take a full spectrum digestive enzymes, it's really a food enzyme that unfortunately is lacking, and that makes us such a difference, because my motto is it's not just what you eat, it's what you digest and what you absorb and utilize. That's really important. And what's the end of our fork is what we can control, and so important. People don't realize how important it is to get what you can from those nutrients, rather than taking so many vitamins and so many supplements, which is really not what our body was made for. And besides the fact it's so expensive as well, too, and we have expensive urine, basically, because if you don't digest your foods, how are you going to digest all those supplements too?
Oh, totally, totally. I
Right.
cannot agree with you more.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a few things there. The first thing is there are obviously different types of food enzymes, right? There's protease, there's elastase, all of these different kinds, right?
Yes.
And they obviously have different effects on the body, or they break down different types of foods. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So there's there's protease and there's peptidase that digest protein, which is extremely important because some of the proteins are one of the most highly allergic foods, like eggs, for example, and meat. And so if you're not digesting that, and they don't have those enzymes in it, so you need to chew it well, and you need a digestive enzyme is so critical for that too, if you are eating meat. And then there's all the carbohydrate digestive enzymes. And you said amylase, we have sucrase, we have maltase, we have disaccharide, ACE, lactase that digests lactose, all of them. And then you have the fat digestive enzymes, and you have lipase, which is the most important too. And then you have cellulase. Our body, that's the only enzyme. Our body doesn't make cellulase. Cellulase breaks down fiber. So, and the only way, if you don't take an enzyme, is to chew. And if you're not chewing, then you're not breaking down the fiber. So, a lot of people say, well, I can't eat raw food because I get so bloated because they're not chewing it well enough. And they need to take a cellulase enzyme, makes a big difference. And then you get that fiber, which is, as you know, such an extremely important food is all our fiber. There's nothing that doesn't depend on that, especially looking at the health of the colon, for definitely, because that helps remove a lot of the unwanted chemicals or byproducts that are dangerous to our body. So those are the different enzymes. So a full spectrum will have all of that in there.
Right.
What I do also in my ECM work is evaluate, are you protein intolerant? Are you carbohydrate intolerant? See, I was. Or are you fat intolerant? And there are certain symptoms that go along with that, but that's something. And then sometimes you can decide on a specific enzyme that's more focused on fat digestion, more focused on protein digestion, or more focused on carbohydrate. I would say 80% of the population is carbohydrate intolerant. That's why people crave so much carb. You always crave the food you're most sensitive to.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Sucks.
So if you're craving carbs, you're probably really, it's like the food you're most intolerant to. If you crave protein, probably that. If you crave salt, you're fat intolerant, without a doubt.
That's so depressing. I know, but it makes complete sense. Talk to me about what you said. It's not only what you eat, but what you digest and absorb. I talk about this a lot too, because I just feel like oftentimes we tend to just go with different diets that, people talk about, and we don't really know whether that's the right diet for us. And then we end up with a bunch of deficiencies, and then we don't really realize or connect the dots, like what's happening. So can we talk about the significance of that statement? Because I think that it's important for us to know that we really need to be absorbing our food.
Yes, absolutely. There are so many different diets out there. I mean, it's like, what am I going to grab on today?
Yeah.
And I do believe that a diet that has as much whole plant food is, I think, the healthiest diet that will maintain your wellness and longevity. I do believe that. And someone once asked me, what about a carnivore? And I said, there's no way anyone ever can convince me that a complete carnivore diet is healthy over a long period of time. People will say, I've had these results. I've been in practice for so many years. There's no way I can grab that and understand that. But I don't care what diet, and a lot of people have trouble with weight. I actually, for years, I have an enzyme detox weight management program that's on my website too. That one of the most important things, of course, is looking how the body detoxifies, because a lot of the fat is stored in your toxins. Toxins are stored in your fat. So if you're trying to lose weight, you need to detoxify first. That's really important, and it's not hard. It's not hard to do that. There are a lot of ways that are not very extreme detox that you can do regularly, and we need to. And then the enzyme is important, because when you take a digestive enzyme, not only you're getting the nutrients you need, so you feel satisfied, you don't need to eat as much, you crave foods less, which is interesting, because a lot of people go on these diets and they go off of it almost because they crave, and they can't help but go back and eating all the sugars and the refined carbs, et cetera, too. But when you take a digestive enzyme and you're getting your food, the brain is satisfied. There's a dopamine reduction in a dopamine, because you're satisfying that dopamine, because you're getting what the body needs to balance homeostasis and reduce the craving. So diets, any diet is okay, provided that you get what you need from the diet. And that's why the digestive enzyme is so important to take. And some people, I take it with, I don't leave house ever without it. And nobody I know who knows me It is, because once you start, that's the one supplement you start, you notice the difference immediately. And
Yeah.
I have people for years and years, they still stick on it and said, and I can look at someone and see if they're digesting the food. I can see it. That's how, because I've been doing this for so long. But so sometimes just even one meal makes a big difference. And for kids, just one meal, but kids need it too. It's very important for their focus, for their attention, for their, there's so many kids now being diagnosed with GERD,
Oh,
gastroesophageal reflux. It's
it's
ridiculous,
crazy. It's
you know,
crazy.
and
Babies.
babies,
Yeah,
and
it's a
instead of
nightmare.
giving them protonics or drugs, try a digestive enzyme, and that I've helped so many parents and so many kids with that recommendation, and they're so grateful because they don't want to be giving their kids drugs.
No, especially not brand new babies. I truly can't get over the prevalence of that these
Yeah,
days. It's
yeah,
shocking. And I mentioned it to my mom recently, and her head was exploding. She couldn't believe it. She'd never heard of anything like that in her life. And
yeah,
she just was saying, there's just, how is that possible? We never did anything like that. There was never any need for that. I'm like, well, things have changed a lot.
yes, yes.
I know. So thank you for saying that. I feel like that's going to be helpful for parents who are listening. You were talking about detoxification and detoxing the body. And can we talk about that? Just the importance of that? Because I feel like this concept is often debunked, quote unquote,
Exactly.
debunked by conventional medicine, that your body is a detoxifying machine. It doesn't need to do you don't need to do anything additional. But obviously, again, our environment has changed dramatically in the last 40 years. So I would love for you to talk about the importance of detoxification, in the context of overall health.
Yes, and what you said is absolutely important to relate and for people to understand. We live in a toxic world, and it's becoming more and more toxic, and we can't see it. So one of the things that I do with my ECM work is to look at your toxic load. And it's not so much that you're toxic, you're just not detoxifying adequately, and see where, and then I look at organ specific, what organ or what area of the body is implicated in the detoxification, the poor detoxification, or the stagnant, or the not able to do what it needs to do. Yes, our body has those organs that detoxify naturally. So we're looking at the respiratory system, we're looking at the skin. That's why skin brushing is very good. We're looking at the colon, of course, and the lymph is important, and the kidneys. So these are all the vital detoxification organs, and they need to work adequately for the body to optimally detox. So when I see someone toxic load or they're not detoxing, I look at which organ. Based on that, I utilize maybe some herbal products or homeopathic products, or some recommendations. And then there's a desensitization process that the ACM does that helps that also. So there are different things to do. I have a program on there that works really well. Things like intermittent fasting is good. Also, just going on a raw food diet for 10 days is a great way to detoxify too, or eating less. Just, do we really need 3 whole meals every day, or 5, or whatever? Just reducing the amount. We look at what I think, I was reading a book where it talked about that if you look at the food, if you go to a restaurant, you look at what the meal was in 1970s and what it is now, the meals are 3 times bigger than they were at that time. And of
Yeah.
course, that's why we have such a huge obesity issue in this country too. So there's lots of things that's not extreme. Those are like simple ideas: skin brushing, cold showers. And of course, I'm a real proponent of exercise. I think it's one of the most important lifestyle that there's nobody really that can't do some exercise almost every day. Absolutely. And definitely, maybe high intensity also helps. Helps detoxify the body. So there's some simple things to do. And then of course there's some more extremes, but again, I have this great program on there that's really doable by almost everyone. And fasting is great if people can do it. I highly recommend it as well. And some people with more severe problems going on, fasting is actually a really good idea. Doing it with supervised
Yeah.
somebody.
That's what I was thinking about that as you were saying this, because I feel like what I see so much among women in their 20s, 30s, 40s is that they're either, at least my population of clients and my audience, they're not eating enough, or they're just not eating enough nutrient dense foods. So I actually do advocate for breakfast because they're also stressed and their cortisol is totally out of whack. And so I feel like it's just interesting to hear different perspectives on it, because I feel like when I talk to the listeners, I want them to remember you have to find something that works for you. And what you're and I feel you feel the same way too, because obviously you're not pushing any one specific diet on anybody, and so that's where I continue to just sort of think about, okay, like what can someone do that is going to work specifically for them? Like, should they fast? Should they not fast? Should they do intermittent fasting or not? I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it. Like, do you find that you've had patients come in and they actually can't do intermittent fasting, or they can't do like a raw food diet? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, everybody that comes to see me is individual. It's,
Yeah.
I treat the person, not the disease, not, this is good for everyone. I do feel like most people that I see can do intermittent fasting. The only people that really should stay away from recommending is people with eating disorders, of course, too. You
Yeah.
know, but and again, you could do breakfast and lunch and an early dinner, or breakfast and a late lunch, and if you think breakfast is, and I work with them and I talk with them, and some people say, no, I cannot do intermittent fasting, and then they end up doing it and they thank me. So, I've been doing intermittent fasting for a while and it actually really works. And it's not so much for weight loss, it's really for longevity. There's more than enough studies and data that indicates intermittent fasting is effective for longevity. I do feel that as people get older, maybe you want to modify it a little bit too.
Mhm.
And that maybe they don't need as to do it as often, or every day, whatever, or do it like what I do myself is I do intermittent fasting, but like 2 days a week I just do like 500 calories and that's it. I've done that it's not to lose weight. I don't need to lose weight. It's just feels good for me. So I have no fat at all, which I don't have much anyway. No fat, no salt, and no sugar, which of course I don't eat. But I'm really, like the other days I do a little flaxseed, but otherwise those days I don't. I've been doing that for years and it feels good. So Monday and Wednesday I just do like 500 calories.
Right.
But so it's a great question. Again, everyone's individual, and I work if they say they can't, fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
There are other
Yeah.
ways of, but maybe reducing the amount of you eat is important too. But I think if they need to detoxify, finding something that works for them too. And sometimes I'd use some different homeopathics that work, and that seems to be excellent. But when people detox, when they feel good, they like it. They want to continue doing it.
Oh
They want
yeah.
to make it part of their lifestyle and do it like once a year, or do it throughout. You can't overly detoxify. But
Yes.
yeah, right.
We're under
So
detoxing, it feels like.
some people,
So
yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I say some people love fasting. You tell them they fast. I fast 3 days every 6 months, which is great. So some people just like to do, but it's so individual. It really is. And I don't. The one thing that intermittent fasting does is increase autophagy, and what autophagy is getting rid of the senescent cells in the body, just at the cellular level, get rid of those or products or detox or toxicities that should be eliminated. That's what it increases autophagy, and that really has been a factor in longevity, anti-aging for sure.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for saying that. You were talking about the organ specific detoxification. So how do you determine what organ needs detoxing and how does that work exactly? Like you're just doing one and which organs are you referring to? I suppose I should ask that as well.
Yeah. Well, this machine that I use, it's called an avatar. And again, it's hooked up to a program and I'm testing people's meridians. So when they come in, first thing I test is their toxic load or stagnant or even emotions. And there's emotional toxicity too.
Yeah.
So I look at that, and then I look based on that, I test which organs are the toxicity showing up. That could be all of them. So again, I'm looking at the lungs, I'm looking at the skin, I'm looking at the liver, I'm looking at the colon and the lymph and the kidneys. So there's a lot of vital organs. Sometimes it's all of them. Usually people will have one that they're more that toxicity is affecting them mostly. Based on that, I will look at what's good for them. And there's a way with this machine and my testing to see what helps them. My machine almost mimics muscle testing. So I
Uh,
started using muscle testing, and then I thought there's got to be a way or a system or a program that I could use that I could do that instead because your muscle gets tired and it's not as accurate. So I traveled all over the world to find machines, and I went through a few evolutions, and now this one is the one I've been using for the last 20 years, and the program just gets updated. I update it every day because I study constantly. I have a huge library relative to anti-aging. So for people who are worried about dementia or whatever, I look at that so we can help prevent it. So that's how the machine. So I look at what, and then what's good. Should it be intermittent fasting? Should it be this herb? Should it be a certain food you eliminate? Which is, of course, important. If you want to detoxify, I would say sugars is a good way to start, eliminating that, and dairy, and maybe gluten. If I don't think eliminating gluten can hurt anyone. So that's what I use. So I base it on my testing. So it's definitely more objective, and I can get a real accurate reading on what they need.
right. Okay. That makes so much sense. I totally want to come see you and have this machine work its
You'll
magic on
love
me.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
you'll
know.
love
I'm
it.
so fascinated by this stuff. So coming back to enzymes and just what you were talking about different sensitivities to foods and whatnot. Like what's an example of that? Like what have you seen in your practice so that someone can get an idea of what that might look like? Because sometimes after I eat something, I'll sneeze once or twice. And I
Right.
assume that means that something I ate wasn't quite working for my body and metabolism. So I'm just curious what other examples there are of that someone could
Yeah.
be on the lookout
Yeah.
for.
Well, that's great. So again, anybody can be sensitive to any different foods depending on you. And a lot of it sometimes is genetic, but or poor digestion. So let's take headaches. If someone comes in with headaches, common foods that people are sensitive to is caffeine is one, which of course helps it. So it's like an addictive allergy. The thing that's helping you the most, you're most sensitive to. Okay, coffee. Dairy products, cashews are big too, which is, and other nuts as well, also, and then it could be anything. Could be anything. Alcohol is a big one for headaches too. Let's see. I'm thinking of other ones that but other high fat foods, oxalate foods that have oxalate, people don't realize can cause headaches. That's a big one too that people should know. So people do have headaches. They should look at all the different oxalate foods, which of course coffee is one, and chocolate. Is
Such a
another
bummer,
one.
isn't it?
I
It's such a
know.
bummer. I know. Yeah. And avocados
And
and
yeah, and
yeah, it
then
sucks.
the histamine thing. So a lot of people come in who have either mast cell activation syndrome, which means that anything that has high histamine, you have symptoms. It can cause all kinds of different problems. I've seen it. And interesting enough, Nicole, after people have a histamine issue, after if they've had COVID or even after the vaccine, their histamine issues escalated.
Oh, I
That's the
believe
one
it.
thing I've
Yeah.
seen. So
Yeah.
looking at all the histamine foods, like avocados, a big histamine food, shellfish is another histamine food, sometimes citrus and tomatoes, all the foods that people like to eat. Alcohol is another big one. And with my method, I can actually clear those reactivities so you don't have the problem anymore. So a person can eat cashews and not get a headache. And it's immediate
And
too. That's how the clearing process.
Is that the energetic desensitization you were talking
Yes.
about? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Amazing.
So,
Wow.
so someone comes to see me, I spend about 2 hours with them the first visit because we look at all their laundry list of symptoms. So,
Yes.
headaches, I have gut problems, I have brain fog. Sometimes people are still sensitive to COVID they had 3 years ago and they haven't cleared it. Because when I look at somebody's sensitivities, I'm looking at all levels. It could be emotional, it could be a habit, could be a thought that still makes you sensitive to it. So then I go about doing a clearing process, energetically help clear it. And they feel sometimes it works first time, sometimes they have to do a few clearings, but I look at all the aspects of what is involved in that sensitivity. And it's always, to me, it's like I never know what I'm going to find, and it's definitely an aha moment for people and say, I still felt that I had something with COVID. I knew it because that fatigue is still there, or that brain fog never left. So anyway, that's what I do, and so you can clear these. So like and asthma is another big one. Because you can be chemicals. There's asthma. There's they say that asthma, you have an allergy part to it or you have chemical. I think it's all allergy. So I treat it as such. So look at what the chemical mold is such a big one. That's a huge issue, as you must know too.
Oh my gosh, it's just a nightmare. I know. And for so many people, and I feel like what tends to happen so often is that we treat all these other quote unquote symptoms of the mold toxicity or the mold sensitivity, and we're never addressing that underlying cause, and you just go on this long journey of trying to sort of play whack-a-mole, and it's so challenging.
Exactly. And that it's huge because the thing is with mold is you can't see it. So I have people come to see me and I say I found mold, and they said no way, I don't have. I said it's in your house, I know it. My testing, I've been doing this for a long time. If I find it, it's there. And sure enough, they get a good inspector. Sometimes it takes 3 different ones, and then they end up finding it. And it's life-saving for these people because, one of the things it can do that's been linked to all kinds of things, from breast cancer to Parkinson. I had a woman where I found she had symptoms of Parkinson's, and was diagnosed with it. And I found mold. And sure enough, they found it all over, and shoes that were moldy in her closet. They live in not Santa Barbara, Santa Monica in LA. And we cleared it, and then her symptoms got extremely, it was better. And then she goes back to her neurologist and said, I don't think you have Parkinson's. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, this is what I mean. I know, right? And if only,
if only
we focused on the actual causes, but that's an episode for another day.
Yes, definitely.
So if someone wasn't able to come see you, what would you recommend? Like, where do we start? Do we start with the enzymes in the foods that we eat? So, or do we start on changing our diet and adding in a digestive enzyme? What are your thoughts?
Great. Yes. First of all, I feel like people my thoughts should have at least 70% of their diet should be whole plant food. Yeah. And yes, start a digestive enzyme. If you have symptoms like fibromyalgia or chronic headaches or fatigue, extreme fatigue, look at my program for the detox enzyme weight loss. It will help you jumpstart your body to feeling better too. And I am training people in ECM. I used to do it a long time ago. I had to stop for a while. I started training again, and it's all indirect. I work on people indirectly too, by the way, Zoom. They don't have to come see me. I do more than that and I started that in 2016, way before the pandemic. So I've been working on this for a long time.
You've been ahead of the game.
But I'm training people, so we're getting more and more people trained. And if anybody's interested, I teach everyone now. I used to just teach doctors or healthcare practitioners. I train anyone who wants to learn. So people are interested, they can look at my ECM technique and when the next training is, and learn more about it. And Cynthia, my assistant, is happy to talk to them about it. But yeah, diet and taking the enzyme and, exercising, and especially with my worst time is these holidays, because people eat all these empty calories and then they get sick in January, February. Take your enzyme, include the plant food in your diet throughout these holidays. That will help you to keep your immune system stronger.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. I know. I feel like it starts after Halloween with all the sugar that comes
That's what I say
during that
all the
time,
time.
right? And then we're on a slow or a fast decline through February. It's not a good picture.
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
So starting with diet, obviously, like more plants, which I know we all
Right.
could use, and then taking digestive enzymes. You have a product, right? You have a digestive enzyme, a full spectrum digestive enzyme that you recommend.
Yeah, because not all enzymes are equal. And I've had people who try other enzymes and it doesn't work as well. So I have ones that I put together. There's one full spectrum digestive enzyme. And then there's one for people who have GERD, heartburn, that they can take also. And I give you instructions on all that too, as well. And they're all plant-based enzymes, and I know who manufacture. I know they're safe, they're healthy, and they do what they're supposed to do. So, and if you want to just take recommendations and find your own, great. But I do. If you look on my website, drellencutler.com, yeah, you can purchase enzymes, and they're not expensive at all. And again, even if you do one meal a day, it's going to change your life. It'll make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And are there any final thoughts for someone who is maybe struggling with their health and they just don't know where to start? I mean, I know you just sort of broke it all down, but do you have any thoughts for someone who maybe feels like they tried everything? I'm sure you've had many patients over the years who felt that way.
Look at my ECM work. We do have some practitioners that we refer to, and we're always happy to help too. You can call. I'm happy to give recommendations. But a good way to start is looking at including, more whole plant foods in your diet, and try the enzyme, and, get out and exercise. And one of the things I always say is spend a few minutes every day feeling grateful for what you have. I think, and standing up straight, because you can't be really depressed or feel bad when you're sitting up straight and smiling.
I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, let me get my shoulders back and
Yeah.
do what I need to do here. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of this. This is really amazing, so enlightening. I really appreciate all your knowledge and expertise. And I know you mentioned your website, but could you just share your book again and share where everyone can find your work and possibly learn how they can work with you?
My book is MicroMiracles: Discover the Healing Power of Enzymes, and it's an updated version. It was written 2012 or something like that, and it has a whole extended chapter on anti-aging and a whole new chapter, which I love, on the pandemic and enzyme use. So I love that. That's my favorite chapter. But it tells all about enzymes and all about different conditions I work with, so I'm sure people can relate to it. And then my website is drellencutler.com. I have newsletters you can subscribe. I have other books I've written, an ebook you can get for free. And my ECM work is on there. And the detox program, detox enzyme weight management program too, is available. Lots to look at, and lots of testimonials too from some patients that were so wonderfully open to giving a video testimonial.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ellen. It was really great chatting with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole. This was a great interview. Thank you for the great questions too.
That's a wrap. Be sure to click that subscribe button to join me for more Girl Talk Gone Menstrual in upcoming episodes. But in the meantime, check out my latest Period Party episode. And if you're looking for a deeper dive into your hormones, go ahead and take my period quiz at nicolejardim.com/quiz.